By now, we're aware that my job is to bring you the latest antics and shenanigans from the corridors of political power. But part of my job is trying to predict what may happen on the political field without the use of witchcraft. And oftentimes I am right. So tonight's show is dedication to that fact. My name is Ashwyn Mberi, and it's time for Second Take. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni is no stranger to second take. Some might say I pick on him unfairly. To those people I ask, what does it take to be unfair to an alleged dictator? I would need to be a dictator too, but as far as I'm concerned, Africa has gone far beyond its quota with regard to that. Ultimately, I can only work with what the people give me. For example, it's all about friendships. North Korea closed its embassy in Uganda in an effort to reduce its number of embassies in the region. This comes 2 weeks after Norway shut down its embassy in Uganda. If I'm Uganda, I'm looking at myself in the mirror wondering why people are starting to avoid me. Because North Korea and Norway couldn't have less in common. That's like your friend that likes listening to country music, leaving your house party right after your friend that listens to hip-hop leaves. It might mean that you just have a bad playlist. Now, might I suggest some Bobby wine for President Museveni to keep all his party guests happy and entertained? He's charismatic, talented, and he spends more time on your mind than the current terrorist insurgencies in your country. Plus, rumor has it, you like Bobby wine so much that you won't even let him go home alone from the airport. Now, if that doesn't say bestie, personally, I don't know what does. See, I even went out of my way to be a matchmaker for President Museveni. It is very difficult to make friends at his age, and here I am, trying to make sure that one of our elders is not lonely and I'm the bad guy. Look, I have a real reason to come to the president's aid. He is surrounded by some questionable characters. Have a look. Ugandan Minister Haruna Kasolo wants poor people to be punished for being poor. He actually said this. In the future, the government could pass a law through the parliament whereby all the lazy, poor people would be given strokes so that they can also learn to work and become rich. You know, Museveni's musketeers never cease to amaze me. Sir, if beating created wealth, then there would be more African millionaires than male rap artists. What I believe is lazy is failing to create and deliver on people-centered policies and grassroots education on finance. What I find lazy is wishing to harm poor people in an economy that you preside over simply because you do not know how to create a healthy society, which may be largely due to an inability to commit to any form of self-awareness that would allow you to see your own humanity in truth, and therefore seeing and honoring the humanity of the very people that put you in power, your people. How are you the State Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development when all the knowledge you have garnered has left you with the reasoning of a drunk circus animal trainer? Okay, let me be constructive. Honorable Minister, it will do you good to realize the very real possibility of Ugandans ditching those that are seemingly drunk on power for some bottles of Bobby wine. I'll suggest you give it some thought. Anyway, that's old news. This is a new year and everyone deserves a second chance. So what has President Yoweri Museveni been up to recently while Uganda's president appointed His son as army commander, sparking nepotism concerns. First of all, when his son was climbing up army ranks, that may have sparked nepotism concerns. Appointing him general is a nepotism fire that would burn your briefcase if you placed it 5 meters away from the flame. Not to mention that this move follows a cabinet reshuffle dismissing 5 ministers. And naturally, he denies grooming his son for succession, but that's like Prince William being told that he keeps losing his hairline in order to remain a duke. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe national positions and resources should be treated like a family business. After all, the children always turn out great, right, Dos Santos? Let's move over to Angola. Isabel dos Santos was known as Africa's richest woman. This after being born essentially qualified her to run a state-owned oil firm chosen over all the hard-working Angolans whose only inadequacy for the job was not being born to a man that ruled the nation for 38 years. Now, when the current Angolan president João Lourenço came into office, he did not waste time cleaning out corrupt individuals that had run rampant on Angola's natural resources and economy for eons. Most recently, Angola's public prosecutor charged Isabel dos Santos with 12 crimes, including embezzlement and fraud. She has responded by saying that the charges are politically motivated, which makes me want to ask, what part of your life isn't? You know, the thing about being dictator daddy's nepo baby is that you seem to be convinced that everything you have is rightfully yours. You make the looting of a nation's resources seem like something someone would bring up just to make you feel bad, like asking why the ex-girlfriend you brought to Christmas dinner last year isn't with us at the table today. To Isabel dos Santos, being worth $2 billion, whilst your father has absolute power over a resource-rich nation, is not nepotism. It's just good parenting. Let's move over to Senegal, where 19 contenders have been on a whirlwind tour for the past 2 weeks, re-campaigning, leaving jail, and trying to woo votes for today's election. For the first time since Senegal got its independence, there's no sitting president in the running. Just as well because incumbent Macky Sall tried to hit the snooze button on democracy, postponing the election from February to December. And of course, chaos ensued. And there were protests, arguments, the usual shebang. Thankfully, the folks in charge of the rulebook reminded Macky Sall that you can't just reschedule democracy like a dentist appointment. After a bit of legal tug-of-war, we're finally back on track. So let's explore the main issues in today's election, considering that a dictatorship seems to have been successfully averted.
As Senegal holds a delayed election on March 24th, with President Macky Sall stepping down after 2 terms, these are some of the main issues likely to be on voters' minds. Successive administrations have struggled to curb youth unemployment. That's especially urgent in a fast-growing population, more than 60% of whom are now under 25. Frustration at a lack of opportunities, particularly among the young, has spurred support for opposition leader Usman Sonko. He's not running in this election, but called for supporters to back Bassirou Diomaye Faye, seen as a strong contender. The share of young Senegalese not in employment, education, or training stood at 35% in 2019. The lack of jobs was further exacerbated by the global health crisis. The economic fallout from the pandemic also contributed to a rising cost of living, in addition to Russia's war in Ukraine and the appreciation of the dollar. Inflation's declined slower than expected from a peak of 14% in late 2022. That's in a country where a third of the 17 million population lives in poverty, according to World Bank data. Economic hardships have undermined support for the current authorities, despite subsidies for poorer families. Nearly 3/4 of Senegalese judge the government to be mishandling the economy, according to a 2023 poll by Afrobarometer. If whoever wins can tackle unemployment and the high cost of living, then many voters hope that will curb the number of Senegalese risking their lives to seek better opportunities abroad. Migration from West Africa to Europe via the dangerous Atlantic route more than doubled in 2023 compared with the previous year, according to Spanish Interior Ministry figures. More than 39,900 people reached Spain's Canary Islands last year, mostly from Senegal and neighbouring Gambia. There is no reliable data on the number of people who did not survive the perilous journey by wooden boat on the open ocean. One boost to the economy is set to come from the launch of oil and gas production later in 2024. That's raised questions about whether natural resource wealth can benefit the wider population. Candidates' campaigns have targeted this concern. The Sonko-backed coalition promised to renegotiate energy contracts to maximize revenues. The ruling Benno Bokk coalition's candidate, Amadou Ba, is running on a slogan of prosperity shared. But then there's the issue of the delayed election itself. Recent political turmoil linked to the authorities' unsuccessful bid to postpone the vote by 10 months may have damaged support for Benno Bokk. The move provoked widespread protests and revived fears that President Sall wanted to tweak the constitution to extend his mandate. That's something he denies. There are no official public election polls, but of those who voted for Sall in the last election, only 60% are believed to be planning to vote for Benno Bokk candidate this time, according to internal government polling.
All the best to Senegal. We will give your election the second take it deserves next week.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhom.com.na.
You know, there is nothing worse than that person that changes everything in the house because of their habits. For example, your dad has a problem with drinking Coca-Cola. Now, everyone else is not allowed to have any in the fridge because he is trying to curb his habit. Meanwhile, the rest of the non-addicted family was used to being able to access some Coca-Cola whenever they wanted to because dad kept the fridge stocked up. This is how I feel about Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, who announced a 3-month ban on publicly funded foreign trips for ministers and government officials, citing escalating travel costs. Now, Tinubu has concerns over excessive spending on official travel. His administration has faced criticism for sponsoring more than 400 individuals to attend the COP28 climate conference in Dubai last year. But since his inauguration in May 2023, Tinubu himself has embarked on over 15 foreign trips. Reports indicate that his administration has surpassed the allocated budget for travel expenses, with expenditures reaching 3.4 billion naira in the first 6 months of his presidency, a 36% increase from the budgeted amount for 2023. And yet again, I can tell you that I saw this coming. Have a look. President Bola Tinubu took office in May with a promise to cut waste and ease people's financial hardship, which is what anyone expects from an incoming president, particularly when you are dealing with a very volatile economy that happens to be the largest in Africa. So one can imagine how surprised I was when I read that he tabled a supplementary budget in the National Assembly for approval with the planned purchase of a yacht for $6 million. Yes, a yacht. What is it with African leaders and wanting to lead a double life? On one end, you want to be the respected leader that prioritizes his people's needs. On the other end, you want to be WizKid shooting a music video. Make up your minds, because it feels like you make up policies to get votes. Thank goodness Nigeria's lower chamber of parliament has rejected the plan. But much like rejecting a teenage boy's house party request, no matter how much you trust him staying home alone after the fact, you should probably keep an eye on him.
Attention kids, we have some exciting news for you. We are back, and this year we are planning on going big. So listen up. If you are in grade 3, grade 2, grade 1 or pre-primary, we are bringing your free school workbooks to you soon. This is all you need to know about where you can find your books. Books will be available for free in Republican Street Sale newspapers and all Namibian Sun newspapers. And for all pre-primary kids out there, your books will be delivered to your school in all 14 regions of Namibia. And there's more. Pre-primary books will also be printed in 9 different languages. Check out when your book will be available from the schedule right here. That's not all. Our free online school is there to help you along the way with video lessons and more books to download. You can also follow along on NTV every Monday to Friday from 9:30 to 11:30 for your daily online school lesson. We thank all our sponsors who are helping to build a brighter future for Namibia. Contact us at info@acdtrust.com and follow us on Instagram.
Now, as I continue to take my flowers for all the times I pointed out political patterns with the accuracy of a scientist prophet, it is time to show you that my non-witchcraft-induced cogent analysis does not only apply to Africa. As the US election looms, here are my thoughts on the candidates. Our first pensioner is Joe Biden. US President Joe Biden launched a new mission on Thursday to convince Americans they should spend billions more on supporting Israel and Ukraine in their wars, arguing that only the US's involvement can prevent global chaos. American leadership is what holds the world together, said Biden. And I couldn't figure out if that was Father Time making another dramatic feature or if he actually believed what he was saying. Either way, much like the Biden administration's recent decision to build 20 miles of wall at the Mexican border, the irony was not lost on me. Mr. Biden said America held the world together. So in the spirit of togetherness of mind and logic, I should let you know that the CIA has confirmed a total of 7 countries that the US has overthrown, beginning with Iran in 1953, Guatemala 1954, that's back to back, followed by Congo in 1960, Dominican Republic in 1961, another double shot of Americano Democracia, which must have resulted in a regime change hangover because the country took a 2-year break. And then the USA picked up where they left off with South Vietnam, Brazil, and Chile. And for some more perspective, it has invaded 84 out of 194 countries recognized by United Nations. Yet somehow, having nose and gun barrel in other countries' business, especially when the business of oil is involved, is considered holding the world together. That said, everyone simply acts on what they know. And considering the glaring political, racial, and economic divisions in the USA, and the fact that former President Donald Trump stands accused of inciting an attempted coup in January 2021, it's safe to say that the lack of charity begins at home. Yes, home, where most men the same age as Joe Biden spend their time. The other contender in the US election is a man whose delusion is unmatched on the global stage, Donald Insurrection Trump. Former US President Donald Trump compared himself to Nelson Mandela, yes, the same Madiba who spent 27 years on Robben Island before emerging to lead the nation out of decades of apartheid rule. Trump, the front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, sought to paint himself as a victim of political persecution, telling a crowd of supporters at a rally, "I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason." Yeah, I'm sure you don't mind being Nelson Mandela, Donny boy, but we as Africa mind you mentioning yourself in the same sentence as a true liberation hero who didn't get $1 million loan from his father, just allegedly a couple of gifts from the Oppenheimers post-jail time, but we never talk about that. Plus, Nelson Mandela once said, "We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians." I dare you to say something similar to American conservative right-winger Republicans and watch them let you stay in that prison like Tory Lanez. So, needless to say, the US can no longer say that Africans are running substandard elections with questionable candidates. However, I can, and I will, should I deem it necessary to do so. TikTok of the week after the break.
We are all seeking connection to each other, to the world, to the spaces we exist in.
Poor sportsmanship right now from the lads.
You might be physically ready, your body is ready, but mentally.
Here's another chance, and it is a goal from Vindo Kaha.
Hy sê wie is er aan neertrek en daai bal het my grond gevat. Ja, hy het grond gevat en is hy
But just enough next.
Running that mountain up. Okay, so we will be doing this for the mountain climber. More advanced, slightly advanced.
So is jou trolley reg? Want
I love it. I love it. So then
kickstart our countdown at number 5 with this one.
Op Netwerk TV se Klets Kompas gesels ons nuus van 'n Maandag tot Donderdag. Ons kyk ook na die weer en meer. Stories wat jou raak en stories wat saak maak.
They've made a mistake in denying me bail, and they've made several other mistakes in many other cases.
The channels that teach us something new or reflect our expression. So it goes beyond switching to the right station. It's about choosing the experience that can adorn the present, dressing it with our tastes as we expand our preferences, because what we are actually connecting to is boundless, limitless human energy, and this is the spirit of NTV.
We have reached an important time in Namibian history, a moment that has been eagerly anticipated by Namibians from all walks of life, particularly VW drivers, late-night briars, sunrise drinkers, and potjie professors. We have the opportunity to enjoy 2 back-to-back long weekends. However, K. Mahapa has some advice for those of us that took leave just for the vibes.
The smart ones at work took leave on the 22nd of March so that they can have a long weekend. Sounds very smart, ne? But is it? Because now you are faced with 2 back-to-back long weekends. Not you, but your finances. Your salary probably has anxiety right now. It has stage fright because it has never performed for such a large crowd before. But I'm not saying you're wrong. You know, I'm sure you consulted your manager to take leave, but did you consult your bank balance? What if your finances also decide to take a leave of absence? I'm not saying you're wrong, enjoy, but April, It's going to be a very long and interesting month for some of you.
Hallo, Namibia. Ons is by die kus en ons is lus.
The way that he eats the shark.
Okay. Okay, so yes, please, today you make sure that we are fed. Sorry, it's actually.
As we continue to unravel the comedic chaos of African and global politics, remember that it is wrong to make fun of people. Unless those people hold enough power to take away your livelihood and joy, then it's just fair game. In fact, ridiculing them once is never enough. Just when they think you are done, make sure you give them a second take.